What is up? Coach Nick here, certified strength and conditioning coach who's worked with hundreds of athletes, even at the highest level. And I'm here to share with you today something I'm super excited about because I really think it's going to help athletes who've been spinning their wheels, not seeing progress in the gym, not being able to get faster and more explosive. This is going to work for you, and I am pumped to be able to actually share it with you. And it is our Explosive Power Accelerator 10-day training program. And I'm gonna go through every single step of this 10-day training program, and in the links down below, you can actually sign up and get all of the workouts detailed and laid out for you for all of this. So let's get into this. So what is the goal of this Explosive Power Accelerator program? The goal is to be able to show you what good quality systematized training can do for you in terms of developing your explosive power in as little as 10 days. Now, I'll be the first to say 10 days isn't going to be enough for your long-term development, but the goal is to show you what's possible by even seeing something as small as a 1% increase. It shows that you are on the right path. If we continue on this path, you're only going to see more and more and more gains in your strength, power, speed, and explosiveness. So that is the goal of all of this. Now, what does the overarching 10 days look like? And I'm gonna go through each and every single day for you to be able to get this dialed in so you know what's coming for yourself. Now, before we begin, I have to say, you have to follow this plan exactly as it's laid out. You can't be doing team practices or other strength and conditioning programs or layering on more workouts or more exercises that you're doing. Okay, because there's already a ton of work in here, and what I'm trying to do is really heighten and elevate your central nervous system to be able to fire, be quick, be twitchy, and get out of the line or sprint fast or jump high. Okay, and if we add too much volume on top of what's already on here, you're going to be fatigued. So you need to follow this plan exactly as it's laid out. Now I'm gonna go over the entire 10-day training split. Okay, so day one, we are testing. We are getting baseline metrics on some easily testable movements. Okay, so day one, some of the movements that we're gonna test, and I gotta say, you have to test and track your progress throughout this. If we don't, how do we know we're improving? And the athletes that see the best results are the ones who take things seriously and get things done the right way. So we need to have your numbers tested in the beginning so you can actually see progress. We don't know if we're progressing, and you don't know if things are working if you don't do this. Like, oh, I feel more explosive or I feel stronger. But when it comes down to paper, is it actually translating? Okay, is it making an impact on your athletic performance? And that's what we're here to do in this Explosive Power Accelerator, is see the impact that this will have on you. Okay, so day one, we're getting into testing. Okay, so typically, you can do this whenever you want, but I would recommend that you maybe didn't train before, so we don't have some crazy sort of jumps. I want to make sure this is as valid as possible for all of you, and not after you did 3 days of hard, heavy training, you go run a sprint, right? So take a little bit, maybe a day or two to rest, and then go into this, okay? So we have a couple of options, but we're going to be testing your vertical power output. So that's either with a vertical jump or an approach vertical jump. So one way you can do this without having any fancy equipment is just get some mark or some chalk, something that can leave a mark on a wall. Raise your hand up, mark it, get to the side, and then jump and mark, and then measure in between. That's a very simple way you can do this. You can also do this with the approach vertical jump. And we're gonna test our broad jump. So say you don't have a tape measure or anything like that, use your iPhone, use an app on your phone, and just simply measure out the distance with that. Okay, I wanna make this as easy as possible for everyone to at least get some numbers down on paper. Then we have our 10-yard sprint. Okay, so you're gonna measure out 10 yards with maybe a tape measure, or again, use the measurement app on your phone, get 10 yards out or 30 feet out, and then film yourself from the side so you have the full 10 yards in there. Film it. Once you film it, go into it and go into the edit mode, and then move the edit down to where you see first movement. That's going to record that number, and then where you first cross the line. When you first cross the line, that is where you're going to end it, and then you'll subtract the two numbers from each other to get your time. Okay? Now with the trap bar jump or barbell squat jump, I have a special calculation that I've put in our explosive power testing and tracking sheet, which you will get when you sign up for the Explosive Power Accelerator. So if you want this and want all the steps broken down step by step of how you can get the most accurate results without any fancy equipment, go ahead and put your email into, or click the link down below, put your email in, and then you'll get access to the workouts. And in the first email, you're gonna get that Explosive Power tracking sheet, which will break this all down for you. It's really cool. I use it myself and with our athletes so we can keep record of what they're doing, okay? But we're gonna do a trap bar jump and a barbell squat jump, okay, to measure your power output. Okay, so that's day one. Now that we have our baseline metrics laid out, now we're gonna get into the training, okay? So for the training, I'm gonna do a big picture overview and then we're gonna get into each and every single day. So in this program, I'm addressing every single quality that an athlete is gonna need in order to have better athletic performance, better strength, better power on the field. So yes, we're addressing strength. Yes, we're addressing power. We're addressing top speed, acceleration. There's agility in here. There's power, conditioning, mobility. Everything is in here. It's not just workouts to make these better. It's to make you a better athlete. And by doing so, we are going to improve these metrics. So the overarching split is going to be day one is our testing day, which we just covered. Day two is going to be a speed and conditioning day. Day three is going to be an explosive upper body focused day. Day four, we're gonna focus on top speed and max velocity sprinting. Day five is going to be our full body strength training focus that has some really cool methods that you can take from and use outside of this training, which I think you're gonna like a lot. Day six, we're doing a mobility and recovery focused day because it's not when you are actually training that you see the adaptations, it's when you recover from those training sessions that you get those adaptations into your body. So more strength, more power, more speed. After we've rested, day seven is going to be our dynamic effort, power focused, lower body training session to really ramp up your central nervous system. After day seven, day eight is going to be our last workout, which is an acceleration and agility focused day. Day nine is a complete rest, relax, recovery type day. And then day 10 is going to be our retesting day where you hit PRs and you make improvements. So let's get into day two. Day two is our speed and conditioning day. So we have a dynamic warm up in there, and inside of the program, this is all laid out for you with some run specific type of drills to really improve your run mechanics. Now we get into our hill series after this. So we have some hill marches to really reinforce proper force production and angles into the ground, and also really great for developing ankle stiffness, which you're gonna need to be able to apply and transfer force into the ground effectively. After that, we're moving into a little bit more of a power-based movement. We're trying to develop some explosive power with the legs on those hills. So we're doing some bounds, right? Where we're trying to gain as much distance as possible. And then we're gonna go into hill sprints. Now the distance for all of these really depends on the hill that you have, but anywhere from 10, 15, all the way up to 20 yards. If you have a little bit shorter hill, I would say up the amount of reps that you're doing on that hill. Now with this, one of the things that I see athletes do a lot is that in order for them to feel like they're working hard, they need to be sweating and they feel like they need to be out of breath, and that's not what we're going here for here. We will get into conditioning where you will sweat, where you will be out of breath, but this period right here, we're really trying to develop power, so you take as much time as you need in order to feel recovered from these. So after we get through this, and again, remember we're making sure that we are resting, then we're gonna get into our conditioning. This is where you can get your heart rate up, you can start sweating, you can feel like you're doing that work, okay? So with the figure eight run, preferably this is gonna be on a football field or a soccer field. You have about 100 yards, okay? So the dashes, you are just going to jog along the length or the outside of the field. Then you're going to cross and you are going to sprint at 80% across the field. So you would jog, sprint, and you're gonna keep doing this continuously for about 12 to 15 minutes. The goal here is that we are trying to improve your aerobic repeat power and aerobic capacity, okay? Now I'm gonna throw up days 3, 4, and 5, and we're gonna go over everything inside of those training sessions. All right, now we're going over days 3, 4, and 5, where we start to get into our lifting portion of the training plan. So day 3, we have a dynamic effort upper body lift where we're really focusing on explosive power. Then we're gonna move into day 4, which is gonna be our top speed and max velocity training day. And then we have day 5, which is our max effort, think strength focused, full body training session, okay? So the overarching split, which you're gonna see, is going to be a conjugate style based training system. Now, we've adapted it to make sure that it fits for athletic performance and really gives you the best of both worlds rather than just focusing on like purely strength gains. So that's where the dynamic effort and max effort days are coming into, which will play into our CCC method here when I explain it to you, okay? But with our main movement for the third day, or the main pairing of movements, it's going to be a banded bench press paired in a contrast type set, like a superset, for drop-in plyo push-ups. Now, when we're doing banded bench press, typically I like to start our athletes around 40-45% plus bands, and we're really focusing on moving very, very quickly and very fast. If you're a little bit more of an advanced athlete, you could probably bump those numbers up to 50-55% and maybe touch into 60%, but the volume would need to be a little bit less for that, because the main goal of this is to really work on getting our central nervous system to produce force very, very quickly. It's something known as rate of force development. Now, what we're getting with the bands into the contrast set is we're getting something called post-activation potentiation. And this specific type of style works really well for athletes who maybe are a little bit stronger but struggle with more of the explosive nature of movements, right? They're less elastic. So this works really well for them, and it works well for other athletes as well. It just really works for those ones a little bit more, okay? So with the banded bench press, we're getting that fast eccentric coming down because the bands are pulling us down, and then we're working that stretch shorten cycle where the muscles stretch and then we have to contract back very quickly and very aggressively. And we're taking that same thing into drop-in plyo push-ups where we're dropping down, having to stop and redirect in that stretch position and come back on up, trying to produce as much force as possible. So that's our main power type training that we're doing for today. Then we'll move into some dumbbell pullovers, 3 sets of 8. You can load it up a little bit heavier, full range of motion. Okay, we're hitting the little lats, little triceps there. Now we're really gonna get into a lot more rotational based work. So one of the best exercises that I think is for a full body type of lift, very coordination heavy, and really helps the athlete just perform a lot better and be and feel more athletic, is a landmine row to press, where we're coming up laterally, we're rotating the hips through, and we're punching through with that landmine. So 3 sets of 6 on each side. Now, after that, we're gonna stay with some rotational work, some rotational core work. We're doing rotational slams, and this is 10 total. So typically with the slams, I don't like to go over anything more than, say, about 16 pounds. At least in the beginning, because I don't want these to be slow and clunky. I really want to see those hips whip around and get full extension at the top and coming on down with the rainbow slams, the med ball rainbow slams. And then we're going to go one more into a lateral half kneeling shot put. So we're getting some rotational work, but now we're getting that chest and tricep a little bit more as we explode and push on through and slam that ball into a wall or have a partner catch it. Now, since I know a lot of athletes want to hit arms and want to look good, I have some optional arms in here with some hammer curls, dips, and Lou raise. Now you can choose and swap these out for any of your preferred movements. Typically around 3 sets, 8 to 12 reps. Take it close to failure, like get after it with that, okay? So that day should probably only be about 45, 60 minutes tops, okay? Now we're getting back into top speed. So we have our dynamic warm up with our ASIPs, our dribbles, and all of our technical drills that we're trying to work on and get the body warm. Now we're gonna get a little bit of acceleration technique right here. So this is a little bit of acceleration technique. Okay, we're gonna get some falling starts. 3 on each side with the lead leg. So I'm really trying to teach the athlete how to lean forward, get that horizontal hip projection and body angle, and attack back behind their body, okay? And then we're taking that one step a little further, and we're doing some half kneeling starts. So now that we got that orientation right and we're feeling good, now I'm really trying to work on that single leg power and explosiveness as we're loading that lead leg in a not optimal position. So it really has to be powerful and explode out, okay? Still attacking back behind the hip. After that, we're gonna get into a little bit of technical work, okay? So working on some technique in running form with some wicket stride controls, okay? So typically these are gonna be about 15 yards total, and the wickets are gonna be anywhere from 3 to 4, maybe 4.5, 5 feet spaced apart, going from smaller, gradually getting a little bit further, okay? And with the wicket stride control, all we're focusing on is being able to get that leg up and through quickly and bringing it down and attacking right underneath the hip. Now, if you don't have mini hurdles or anything like that, I've had plenty of my athletes in the peak performance program use hats, sweatshirts, shoes, cones, anything, as long as it's a little bit of an elevation and you can see it. That's gonna help your mind think, oh, I gotta get up and over this, okay? And that's what we're working with that cycle. Now, the main portion of our speed training, where we are overloading the central nervous system and we're trying to get it to run and move faster than it's normally used to, which is some downhill sprints, okay? So the downhill sprints, we want a slope right around 10 to 15 degrees, okay? So it's not a very steep slope. When you go too steep of a slope, it changes your mechanics too much and it's too fast and your body can't keep up, so it changes everything and it won't really transfer over. So a small slope is really what we're looking for to maintain that running cycle that's a little bit more natural to flat ground, but we're getting that overspeed because you're going to run a little bit faster going downhill, okay? This 5 sets of 20 yards. Now, if you don't have a hill that you can run down or find a 10 to 15 degree slope, an easy substitution that you can do are some fly 10s, okay? A fly 10 is where you're gonna build for about 15 to 20 yards, where you're not really emphasizing the acceleration piece, but you want to be at top speed by the time you hit that 15 to 20 degree marker, and you're at max velocity sprinting for 10 yards, okay? So we're really trying to peak that max velocity. Another option you can do is have a band assisted type of sprint that you would need a long bungee cord with, are about the only options for that, but a fly 10 will work just great for many of you. Now, after that, we're gonna get into a 30-yard sprint. So it's very simple, it's just maximal effort, 30-yard sprint. Okay, with each of these, you probably are resting right around 2 to 3 minutes in between your sets. So again, top speed isn't about getting fatigued, getting uncomfortable and like your heart rate going really crazy. I want you fully recovered, fully fresh, and running as fast as you can. And if you need to bump those rest times up to 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, that's fine, okay? Now, when we're doing this, typically I like to have our athletes film themselves, and if they run a slower time than their best for 2 consecutive times, then we're gonna drop after that or take a longer rest, okay? Now, day 5, we're getting into our max strength-based work, okay? So you're gonna see CCC method. So that is something that we use specifically in the peak performance program. It's a conjugate cluster contrast. That's what it stands for. So the overarching scheme of the days that we're lifting is that conjugate method that I mentioned. The cluster sets are what we're getting into with our back squats here. So cluster sets are really awesome, especially when you're trying to maximize strength and force output. So a typical training set, right? Your typical normal reps, say 6, 7 reps, whatever it is, you are going to be able to push that weight, but if you're truly training at the correct intensity for the rep scheme that you're at for strength, reps 4, 5, 6, 7, they're gonna start to slow down a little bit and they're gonna start to feel a little bit more grindy and move a little bit more slow, okay? And what we're doing with the cluster set is we're breaking that, say, set of 6 up into 3 little mini sets, okay? So instead of doing all 6 reps all at once, we're gonna do 2 reps, rest 15 to 20 seconds, 2 reps, rest 15 to 20 seconds, 2 reps, rest, well, then you're done with the set, okay? And what that little rest allows us to do, right, and the whole reason we're doing the cluster set is that it allows you to use a heavier load, right? So more force output, more strength gains, and that rest allows us to recycle some ATP, which in turn allows us to keep the bar speed higher for the entire 6 reps. So normally we might have really good bar speed reps 1, 2, 3, and then we start to slow and tail down. With the cluster set, You're gonna be very high, and then you'll rest and it'll stay high, maybe drop a little bit, you'll rest again, come back on up, and then your last one may be a little bit slower, okay? So you get a greater bar speed, which is gonna help you have more power, more strength development with those. Now we're doing the same thing here like a cluster set. So this is about pure post-activation potentiation. Maximal force output, then you're gonna rest anywhere from 30, 45, up to a minute of rest time, so your legs are feeling fresh and you're recovered, your heart rate's down a little bit. And then we're going into maximal effort box jumps. With the box jumps, I really want our athletes to think about applying force into the ground and trying to get up as high as you possibly can. I see a lot of athletes do box jumps and they're more focused on how high they can bring their legs and their knees up to get an arbitrary goal of jumping, say 46 inches on a box, versus actually applying force into the ground and say maybe getting up 28 inches, right? But that's gonna help us translate into that more, the true vertical output and true vertical force production that we're looking for, that's gonna translate better into your vertical jump rather than just focusing on bringing your legs up super high, okay? Now, if you choose a box and you're trying to go for it and your knees bend a little bit and your legs come up a little bit, that's totally fine. We just don't wanna overemphasize bringing the knees up a ton, okay? We're taking that same thing and we're moving it into our pressing or our upper body. So we have bench press, 3 sets of 2, so 6 total. With this, in both of the cluster sets, typically what I tell my athletes is that you want to do a weight maybe 10 to 15% more than what you would normally do on, say, a normal set of 6. So if for a normal set of 6 on bench press, say you do 225, you might put 245 on for this, okay? We don't want these reps super grindy, super slow with that, okay? And then we're moving into a floor chest pass, which is really rapid, really fast, really quick type of power movement for the upper body. After that, then we're gonna round out the rest of the workout. So now we're gonna get into some single leg RDLs for a little bit of hip stability and posterior chain development, 3 sets of 6 on each side. Then this is our main horizontal movement. So if you need to wear wrist wraps, whatever it is, go heavy and get after it with the dumbbell row, okay? And then we have farmer's carries. So you can use any sort of farmer's carry variation that you want. Suitcase carries are one of my favorites, or front rack or double, it doesn't matter. If you do use a unilateral type or a single arm type movement, then you'll just go for double, right? So you go 30 yards one way, 30 yards the other way. And then the last thing, we're doing a lunge overcoming isometric. Overcoming isometrics are really great for developing maximal force, tendon stiffness, and joint specific strength, which is exactly what we're going for here, and trying to work more of that acceleration type of pattern where we're leaned forward a little bit in a more horizontal shin angle. So these are day 3, 4, and 5, and then I'm gonna put up days 6, 7, and 8 and cover the workouts and training sessions in those. Okay, so now days 6, 7, and 8 are on the board. So after our heavy training session, our max effort full body where we're doing our cluster sets, now we need a mobility day to recover. So it's in the training, that's not where the adaptations or the results happen. Yes, you're providing what's called the stimulus for that adaptation to happen, but it's when you recover that the adaptations or results actually ingrain into your body, your muscles, and your central nervous system. So we are prioritizing our mobility, okay? So I start our athletes off with a hip flow. They all love it. They say their hips are feeling great after this, and I'll put the link for the full follow along video down in the description. So check that out after this video. After that, we go through a 90-90 series. We have a lateral or half kneeling hip shift to work a little bit of the groin and the ankles. Then we hit an ASLR, which stands for active straight leg raises. Okay, so that's gonna hit your hamstrings and get those nice and feeling good. And if you're anything like me, my calves get a little beat up, get a little bit tight, so we're gonna actually implement a calf smash here where you're trying to open that up a little bit. And then we're gonna take care of the upper body with a 3-way lat and shoulder stretch, a T-spine or thoracic spine overhead mobility drill, and then a T-spine reach through for a little bit of rotation, a little bit of growing in that as well. So if you want all the videos and exercise descriptions so you can follow along and know that you're doing these correctly, then make sure that you sign up for the Explosive Power Accelerator 10-day program, and that will be inside of the app for you. Day 7 is our last strength training session. It is our dynamic effort, lower body day, okay? So we are starting off with plyometrics. So we have one extensive plyometric, okay? So that's like little hops and skips, and those are meant to develop your ankles and some of that elastic strength, okay? So we're starting off with some single leg lateral hops. 3 sets of 10, you're trying to be as quick as you possibly can off of the ground, okay? Each way. Then we're gonna go into banded skaters. So banded skaters are really great for helping develop that lateral power development. Now, when you're first starting off with some banded skaters, I would just recommend that you jump out, land, and then walk back on in, okay? If you're a little bit more advanced and want to take the training stimulus to a little bit higher level, what you can do is jump out and then jump back in. When you jump back in, that band's gonna pull you in quicker, so you're gonna get a little bit of an overspeed effect that then you have to land and stabilize before you redirect back on out. Now we're gonna get into our last one, which is a half kneeling lateral to box jump. Okay, so we're working some transition of force here. So we're gonna start off in a half kneeling, explode out laterally, gather our feet, and then transition to a vertical force production or a box jump. Okay, so we have 3 sets of 10 on the lateral hops, 3 sets of 6 each way on the banded skaters, and then 3 sets of 3 each way on the half kneeling lateral box jumps, okay? After that, we're gonna work and hit our posterior chain, so glutes and hamstrings, okay? So just like we did on the dynamic effort upper body, we're gonna do banded RDLs. Now, again, this is probably around 50-ish%, okay? 50% of your 1 rep max plus some bands, and you're doing 3 sets of 6. In the beginning, you should control the movement on down, feel that stretch, and then explode up and squeeze your glutes as hard as you can to come up. If you're a little bit more advanced and want to take it to the next level, you can actually do something called a fast eccentric type of movement, okay? That's where you're coming down quickly, stopping, redirecting, and coming back on up, okay? With the fast eccentric version, you are going to get a greater demand on that stretch, shorten cycle and train it just a little bit more than you would if you had a slow controlled movement, okay? Now we're gonna take that into the fastest velocity-based hamstring and glute movement that you could possibly do. So we have the biggest contrast possible, which is a sprint. We're doing a 20-yard sprint. Now I will say that if you've been training like this, then I would recommend that you can do it. And you've been sprinting for a while and you're comfortable with your mechanics and you have a work capacity to be able to handle this, great. You're gonna get a huge benefit from this. If this is a little newer to you and these are new type of movements, then I would definitely recommend that you opt for one of our alternatives, which is a single leg bound or a single leg hop for 20 yards as well, where you're trying to just gather as much distance. I just don't want to see any of you put yourself at increased risk for a potential hamstring injury if your body's not adequately prepared for that, okay? Now, after we got our posterior chain fired up and ready to go, we're gonna move into either a power clean or a similar variation, okay? So this is going to be a little bit of both a squat and a hinge. With the power clean as you're coming on up, then you're hinging and snapping on through, okay? So heavy reps, fast as you can, 5, 4, and 3. So if you're not comfortable with a power clean or a catch variation, you just haven't worked that a ton, you can do an alternative such as a clean pull or a clean high pull or a hang high pull or even a trap bar jump. With the trap bar jump, you're probably gonna have to go a little bit lighter with this type of movement. And I will say that doing the trap bar jump is a good substitution, but we are gonna be hitting banded trap bar deadlifts right after this. So while it's not the end of the world, it wouldn't be my first choice, okay? Now, when we get into the next contrast, dynamic effort contrast set, we're doing banded trap bar deadlifts. Now, with these, I want you to focus on being a little bit more upright, a little bit more vertical in that squat pattern. With these, I think you can go a little bit heavier, around 50, 60, maybe even up to 65% of what your 1 rep max is, plus bands if you're a little bit stronger, a little bit more advanced athlete, okay? And we're gonna take that and we're gonna pair it with approach box jumps, okay? Just to refine some coordination, some timing, and then being able to explosively jump up as high as you can. The last portion of this workout is seated calf raises to hit our soleus, which is going to be a large contributor of how much you can produce force into the ground. A soleus takes a lot of force during sprinting, so we're trying to train that to be able to handle a little bit more so you can produce more force, gain more distance with each and every step, okay? And then our last thing is a cable hip flexor raise, okay? We're attaching our our heel or foot to a cable, and we're ripping up and through into triple flexion to try to train the hip flexor to be strong and powerful and quick coming out, okay? So those will really help with the acceleration, okay? Day 8, the last speed training day, is acceleration and agility. So we are starting with acceleration, and we are doing a contrast type set with our speed and acceleration work, okay? So we're doing sled sprints, 5 sets of 10, and this is at a 50% velocity decrement, okay? So all that means is that you take the time that you got on the first testing day when you did your 10-yard sprint, say it was 1.8 seconds, okay? You did a 10-yard sprint in 1.8 seconds. You are gonna keep adding load onto this sled until it doubles the time, which would be a 3.6, okay? 3.6 if that was your number, right? So all you're doing is taking that initial time that you got, and then you're doubling it. You're adding weight until it doubles, okay? So if it was 2 seconds in the beginning, now it's 4 seconds here, okay? And if you don't have a sled, but you have someone you're training with, you can do banded sprints as well. So just have the person apply enough resistance so that it doubles your time. It's not gonna be perfect, but you can get it dialed in and still get a similar training effect. So after you do your 10-yard sprint, so one 10-yard sprint, you're gonna rest about a minute, minute and a half, maybe in up to 2 minutes. Then you're gonna do a 20-yard sprint. You may feel like you're falling over. That's good. That's telling you like, hey, the proper angles, we're at the proper, like everything is dialed in. When you do a sled sprint, it corrects a lot of mechanical and technical errors in the drive phase of an acceleration, okay? What you're trying to do is you're trying to replicate that during these sprints when you get out for the first 10 yards, okay? So that means staying low, nice, good 45-degree angle and attacking back behind your hip. So really just try to emphasize what you did here with the same start you did here, okay? 20 yards, rest 2 to 3 minutes, then you do 30 yards, and you're gonna repeat that 5 times, okay? After we get done with that, that's our acceleration work. Now we're gonna get into our agility work, okay? So I like to start with a 3-cone drill. So what we're really working on here is quick and sharp angles and change of direction, okay? So you just set up cones at about 5 yards apart here, and then you split the difference, and this is about 3.5, maybe 4 yards here. When you're sprinting and going through these, I just wanna see outside foot plant. It is in front of the other foot, so you can turn and open really quickly and get around. I see a lot of athletes, when they come to break down change direction, they leave the back foot behind, and then they have to either take a false or an open step, or they're trying to clear their hips, and then they end up bubbling on this and not running a straight line, okay? So you do 3 to 4 reps each side. Rest anywhere from a minute if you need to, 2 minutes if you need to, okay? Then we're getting into some decel work. This is our 4-cone shuttle, okay? So you just set up 4 cones about 5 yards apart. Okay, all you're gonna do is you're going to sprint as fast as you can to that first cone. You're gonna break down as quickly as you can, and then you're going to go around the circle, either in a left or right fashion before re-accelerating to the next cone, and then rinsing and repeating for the entire set of the cones. So 2 to 3 reps on each side, whether you're going around one way or the other way. Now the last one is a 4-cone drill. Okay, this is really going to show yourself and show you how well and how athletically you can move, because there's a lot of different types of change of movement here. Okay, so with this, you're going to set these cones about 5 yards apart in a nice box. Okay, you're going to sprint to the first cone, get around the cone, then you're going to back pedal diagonally. Okay. Then you're going to get around this cone, sprint back up, and then shuffle across. When you're gonna be looking away from the cone, so you're gonna have to, this is gonna work on knowing where your body is at in space, okay? And then once you get around that cone, you're gonna do an open step. So if I'm shuffling this way, the cone's over here, then I'm gonna do an open step, turn and run to finish off, okay? So then you're sprinting back on down. So you're doing 2 to 3 reps each way, okay? Now, This was the last of the training days. Now, day 9 is a rest day, and I can't stress that enough. I don't want you guys doing anything. Really, maybe a light walk, some stretching, but you really should be focusing on your nutrition, your sleep, your hydration. You know, try not to be too active during this. Like, try not to go hit extra training or hit anything else, because we just pushed your body really, really hard for the past 8 days. We need to recover. So just like our mobility day, we need to recover from all of the high output type stuff we just did, so your body can integrate it, and then you can then express it on our retest day, okay? So then day 10 is your retest day, where we are focusing, like, look, this day, you should go in like game day, right? You should go in pumped up, ready to go, you know, feeling well rested and trying to get after it, okay? Intention is super key here. You have to give maximal effort on every single thing that you do during this test day, and recover and rest in between them. Don't just go one after the other, after the other, after the other. Take some time so you can really get yourself ready to go, okay? Now, if you've gone through this and you're like, whew, like I'm still a little sore, still a little tired, then I would recommend that you take an additional day off and retest on day 11, okay? Anytime we implement new training stimuluses, right? Some of this banded stuff, these plyos that maybe you've never done before, or higher speed work, or the cluster sets, these are all gonna be new training stimuluses that maybe you haven't experienced in a while or ever at all. And anytime we do that, you are gonna get more fatigued or more sore than you typically would if you continued on with your regular training that you were doing prior to this. So you may need to take an additional day off prior to your retest day. So this is the Explosive Power Accelerator 10-day program. Make sure that click that link so you can get the app, get all the workouts, test your stuff out, and get the tracking sheet for yourself. If you like this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that little bell notification, and comment any videos down below that you want to see me do in the future. And I'll see you in the next video. Train hard and dominate harder.